Hi everyone, my name is Natalie. Today I wanted to do a video entirely inspired by Andrea from Infinite Text. She did a video recently talking about her favorite female characters in literature, and it got me thinking about things that I value in a character. One of the things that Andrea talks about in her video is the difference between an interesting character and an interesting life that the character has led. And I think for me it is more common that the books that I read are about interesting lives and that I can find a character interesting, but they're not necessarily my favorites. I had to think a bit to figure out what I like in a character, and I have selected a few that are, I think, probably my favorite female characters. I might be missing out a few. So starting off with a book that I'm actually currently rereading and that also reminded me of what I like in a character, and that is The Faster I Walk, the Smaller I Am in the English translation. I'm actually currently reading the Norwegian original, which has been a really interesting contrast to the previous time that I read it in a Swedish translation. It's by Kjersti Anestatter Skomsvold, and it basically follows a woman. I think she's in her 60s or 70s. She's an elderly woman, and she's retired. She lives with her husband, I think, or her life partner anyway. They've been together for a long time, and because they're both retired, they don't really have a social life that forces them to be socially active regularly. So she lacks this kind of network, and she's very ironical and sometimes pessimistic about the world and her place within it. She's unsure of she's afraid of being forgotten, and a lot of the things that she talks about, like she looks at death ads, like the mortuary kind of things in the newspapers, to sort of see the kind of people that she's outlived, and she's constantly thinking about death and how she will be remembered, if at all, who will remember her, who will miss her when she's gone. And I think a lot of the introverted sort of musings on her life and her place within the world is something that I really find interesting in a character to have. I think in general, having a very rich internal life is something that I really enjoy in a character in literature, and something that I think I relate to a lot. She can also be quite socially awkward, which is another thing I really like and that I probably relate to a lot. She's called Mattea. I'm not sure I said that. But I just love that she sort of, for example, she has this meeting with a random person, when she's walking, I think, back from having done grocery shopping, and she's asked the time, and she doesn't have a watch, so I think she just makes up the answer of the time, but she's so excited of having been asked something and doing someone a service that the next time she goes out, she very actively puts on a watch, so that she's ready for the next time that someone asks her. I think in general I just love her as a character. I love her perspective, and I think her genuineness and the lack of pretense with her, that I just find very grounding. Another older character that I love is Morenci in The Door by Magda Szabo, which I read not too long ago, I think February. She's basically like a housekeeper. So she does a lot of the things within the house, like cleaning and cooking and everything like that. But she's also a very central part to her like neighborhood. And the things I like about her, I think, again, is the lack of pretense. I guess the courage to be herself despite not always being liked, because she's so honest. She is someone who everyone around her depends on, but she also doesn't require things out of people, and I think I find her very admirable. But she's also not the easiest person to have something to do with, and because of that I think she's a character that is very interesting because she's so complex. She has a lot of secrets that she will never talk to anyone about, and it makes her hard to reach at times, very distanced, but she's also quick to help others, and she has this way of doing loving things without loving words. She can be quite rough on around the edges, and I think I like the fact that she is contradictions a lot, that she cares for people, but that she's also quite fragile in her relationship with other people, and that she can, when she's been disappointed, she can really cut the ties completely. Now on to younger characters. We have Mary Cat from We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I read this for the first time last year, and completely from the get-go fell in love with Mary Cat as a character. She's, I think, 18 years old, but in a lot of ways she thinks like a child would. So this book follows Mary Cat together with her older sister and their uncle. They're very isolated from everyone else, and because of that Mary Cat has developed some behaviors completely without any controlling of her behaviors and her way of thinking. She hasn't got the moral upbringing that would sort of straighten her out in her perspective on the world. In general, a lot of the behaviors in her is the way a child thinks, but she's within an 18-year-old body, and because of that she also has to deal with things that an older character would have to. The other child female character that I love is Esme from For Esme with Love and Squalor, which is the one of the stories in 9 stories. This is the collection 9 Stories by J.D. Salinger. So Esme is a young child who has lost both of her parents in the war, and she has a younger brother, and she and her younger brother, together with I think their governess, meets this young soldier on leave or something like that. So he's taking a break at a cafe and he meets Esme and her brother. She has the effect on the soldier to sort of scale off his armor, and I love that about her. I think that is probably the thing that I like most about her character, that the effect she has on the soldier, the fact that her presence has such a overpowering sense in their conversation and in their meeting. She also, like, there's a part in the story where before they've even sat down and talked, she has done some, she's been at practice, choir practice, and she's been pretending to sing while also yawning with her mouth open. I think there's something so childlike about that behavior, and not caring that much what people think of you, and being honest and not even considering the fact that people might not come from the same perspective, being brave enough to just share all of your thoughts without any of the filters that adults would use. I'm not sure if I'm really getting across the amazingness of Esme. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Andrea also mentioned Esme. But in general, I love the children in J.D. Salinger's short stories. I think he captures something of the child sense of the world. And last, I wanted to talk about 2 female characters that I loved as a child, and that I think shaped some of my expectations on female characters in the rest of my reading life so far. So first is Pippi Longstocking. I think, or Pippi Longstrump by Astrid Lindgren. I think she is So when I talk about her, I mean like both the chapter books, but also the comics and the TV adaptations, basically her character in all shapes. But I think probably mostly in the comics, because in the chapter books there's still a little bit of that racist undertone to the writing, which is not my favorite thing ever. But in the comics, I remember that she is she's taking on bullies, and she's very proactive, and she's strong physically but also mentally. Her mother has passed away and her father is away always, basically, and she's living on her own with her pets. And I think the strength in her character and the ease she has in making herself at home in any situation is something that I found very admirable and very inspiring as a child, and that is still a thing I feel. But probably the first female character that I really loved as a child and in general is Mamamoo. Maybe it's the same name in English. Is a series of picture books about this cow who, she doesn't just want to be a cow. She doesn't want a normal cow life. She wants to have adventures. She wants to be able to learn new things and experience a lot of things that she sees other people doing, specifically other humans, I think. Again, there's this, she is curious about the world, and obviously that is something, curiosity is something very central to me. But I think she's very curious about the world and she wants to explore and experience things. But also she is, she doesn't care about what other people think, and she is fantastic, and I wish that these books were more well known internationally. I found her very inspiring, and I still do. Also, they're very funny, which is not something you can say about all picture books ever. So those are some of my favorite female characters in literature. I hope you found some characters that you would be interested in pursuing further. I will link all of the related books in the description, and I would love to hear what your favorite female characters in literature are. I will also link Andrea's video in the description. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.